feel like I should say some inspirational TED Talk quote right now. I kind of try to be the captain of the ship, but ultimately I am not the only one on the ship, you know? And I think that I just have that team mindset about it. Hi, my name is Nicole Nagy, and I am a teacher. I am a mother. I am a jack of many trades, mastering a few. And I'm a forever learner and doer.
Do you ever do things for yourself?
Ooh, that's a good one because you want to say yes, but probably not as much as I should for myself. However, I do find joy in doing what I do. If I didn't do the fun stuff, if I didn't do the creative projects, if I didn't do events and things like that, I wouldn't have as much joy. It kind of keeps me going. So when the days get hard and are nitty gritty, those are those moments for me of like, yay, you know, and feel rewarding. So
right.
Probably not as much as I should, but I have young children and you're always on the go and things like that too. So I'd say 70-30. So I'm not going to sit and pretend that I had this horrible life by any means, but I have suffered through trauma since childhood, losing a lot of different people that I was very close with in my life, and you just build that resilience. And I always wanted to excel beyond my circumstances and not let my environment or what was happening be the reason I couldn't make it in some aspect, whatever that aspect of life was. And I think that when you develop that mindset, you naturally have to be, this is going to happen, we're going to make it happen, it is what it is. And things have to roll off the back and you just have to toughen up, buttercup. And so in the personal aspect, which then carries over in professional when you're a teacher of humans, you know, you kind of develop that way. And I know that my beginning of my teaching career was in a inner city urban environment, and I was fresh out of college, young, probably 22, and you don't learn much in college really about how to truly do the job until you're on the ground running. And I think that I am so grateful I started where I started because it was rewarding in a way that I can't put to words, being in that type of teaching environment. And there were things I never imagined that I would see or I'd have to counsel kids through, or, you know, no textbook pedagogy could have prepared me for. And one of the things that was said to me very early on in my career, because I was thrown in multiple grades, not just one, but I did get put with 8th grade. And so over time, that became the predominant grade I worked with. And the phrasing was, you're tough, you can handle it. So that's why when you say like you're tough, it's so funny because I've been told that even in a professional sense as well. And I don't necessarily think it's tough because sometimes that has a negative connotation. I just think to me, tough means that you're going to make it work. And one of the hardest things for all of us to learn is sometimes we have to be problem solvers, not problem seekers. And when you teach middle school and you teach that age bracket, sometimes that's the hardest part. Obviously, children are in the middle of trying to figure that out and learn that. And so it helps if you just have that constant, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, buckle up, it's fine, you're going to be okay. Like you have to have that type of championing type of nature for the kids too.
So I happen to know that you've worked with some of my students, and the students who you've worked with, they've kind of gotten themselves into a hole a little bit, like, a lot of work. So, yes. You know, how do you get them to feel motivated to get out of the hole?
I wish I had 100% answer.
Yeah.
Because that's a daily battle that I think makes the job so tough, because I find that sometimes I feel very preachy to them because they get so stuck in their mindset of it is what it is, or a little apathetic, about what does it matter? Like, when am I ever going to use some of these things and all of that type of stuff? And honestly, I understand their point, which I tell them, I get what you're saying. But in life, there's certain things that we have to do. They're setting you up for success in other ways. So yes, you might not need to solve an algebraic equation in your future career necessarily, but the skill sets you're learning while your teachers are trying to get you organized and learning how to meet deadlines and do all of these things, that's preparing you for life skills. And a lot of my students have heard me use the phrase, okay, this is a human 101 lesson time. And we do that a lot. And I think the biggest part is letting them have the time in class, or wherever we are at that moment. They share their opinions, and you have that conversation sometimes. The setting of my classroom the last couple years has been a little more conducive to that, in that I'm not necessarily that content class where you are meeting certain demands as you have to because of I see them in that elective slot. Yes, of course, we're doing content, but there's that extra piece that's almost like a workshop feel to it where they naturally want to share things with me and they naturally want to vent. And, and it's navigating that and it's trying to get them to understand that you're entitled to your opinions. And you're not always going to like everyone you work with, and that's okay, but you still have to be successful for you. So you need to learn when to turn it on, turn it off, get your things done, and it's that repetition. And, they don't always like to hear it. Who does? But I have those types of raw, honest conversations, with them. And that's a part of maturity and growing and developing. And so we do have those conversations because sometimes I feel like they think it's a counseling session almost where they come in ready to say, I can't believe I had to do this in this class, or like an assignment, and then we have to go through that conversation. Oh, so-and-so failed me on this assignment, or, oh, they didn't give me so then it's, pause, you didn't earn what you were supposed to earn. And then of course it's the deer in headlights look a little bit because we don't want to confront truth sometimes.
Right.
Of, well, did we do what we were supposed to? Did we meet deadlines?
So, one of my favorite all-time podcasts and guests was Jihad. He spoke so well of you, and I want to talk about some of those things he said.
I would say it's harder for me to learn than others. I think everybody learns in a different way. People say they're visual learners, I'm a visual learner, but I can also hear stuff, but you got to make learning fun for me, because I can't just people can't just give me a textbook or something, a whole packet, and I can read it. I have to either have somebody with me to help me or make it fun. That's why in math, I'm in academic success. And Ms. Nagy, thank God for her, because I feel like she's one of the greatest math teachers I ever had. Because she makes it fun, she gives us fun things to do.
I never quit. So I'm always still trying new things, always trying to figure out how can we do this differently, that kind of a thing. And when I took on the position where led me to be his teacher as the academic success teacher, it was kind of open-ended in terms of not necessarily, of course, they have to be taught math and, they need to improve and things like that. But there wasn't a rigid sense of well, you need to teach this specific program this specific way. And that's a gift and a curse in a certain sense. When you're first starting out, you're like, oh, what? And then eventually you're like, all right, wait a minute, And one of the major hurdles I have faced is the children's self-thinking. And we have conversations from day one about you are not math stupid, you are not dumb, IQ is far from the problem. Many of us have not developed the skill sets we need to find success, but it's possible. And a lot of them don't believe me and, they hesitate a little bit. And I said, you just have to learn how to think. I said, because I'm no, amazing brainiac myself. I don't claim to be, but I never stop. And when I don't get something right, I don't throw in the towel. I'm like, oof, how can I do this differently? Or why did I get it wrong? I said, and that's the piece that you have to kind of activate. And you're not going to do that if you don't train your brain. You don't try to work through things and not give up. I said, and it's hard. We all get in those places where we're like, I'm done, enough, you know, all of us. I said, but take your 5 minutes, get back on the horse, as they would say. We just started doing like logic, a lot of logic and reasoning puzzles, and all involving numbers and different things like that. And just because on paper you might not be able to necessarily solve equations very quickly, or you might not know all your geometry terms, or you might not know how to do 3x2 digit in under a minute and things like that, does not mean you never will, and it doesn't mean that you can't ever get better at it. And I think especially with Jihad, what was so wonderful to watch, he was such a great spirit. He had a great attitude about him, and he was very literal in that common sense way about him, and you know him, so you know what I mean. And I think that's when he realized, like, oh, wait a second, because he was very good at those things, because he did have logic and reasoning skills. He maybe just didn't have it, he didn't know he had it, or that he could apply it. And he was phenomenal at doing those activities. And then so it's kind of just that slow build of exposure. And yes, I made him take notes, regular math notes. And yes, we did traditional math problems and things like that, because you need to know how to do them and you need to see them. But I can think of it now when I used to project the different puzzles, or I would say, all right, write all the numbers and, you know, make it work. How can you add the symbols? To always make, I can't think of it, I think it was for the 222, 22, it was like Tuesday and all that stuff. So we did that puzzle where you get the numbers, you got to put in the different symbols to make it equal a certain value. Blew it out of the water. And I said, that's all math skills you just used. You
Right.
did, and you did it mentally
Right.
to boot, you know. And I think that's where we're at right now, is trying to build the math confidence and just general thinking confidence and learning confidence. That's the hurdle a little bit.
What were you like as a student?
I was an overachiever. I was. I was hardworking, and I didn't struggle, so to speak, in the sense that, like, I felt it was uber hard or anything. I'm not going to say everything was so easy, but we're talking, you know, the report card had to be straight A's. If we got the B, I still remember the 1C in my career I got and what teacher I had it with. Like, I was that type of kid in school. As a mom, it's kind of funny. I want my children to do very well. I expect, you know, them to do well and excel and do all those things. But like when I was in school, I was so focused on like what I thought I had to do. And I was having this conversation with my daughter, you know, like I took all the AP classes. Why? Not saying they weren't great. They were. There were some amazing teachers I had that really were masters of what they were teaching me. But like, I didn't know you had to take a test that could have helped me with my college credits. Do you know what I mean? So I look back and I'm like, why did I suffer through senior year with some of those tough classes? I did well in them. I got A's, you know? But I look back because now I feel a little differently. And what I mean by that is it's great to push yourself. I will never say don't do that. But I think too, and it's hard when you're a kid and you're young, is that you don't, how could you know any of this? You're young.
Right.
But I was trying to explain to my daughter, because she's the older one, like, do your best, aim for what you want, of course, but don't beat yourself up so hard either over things. You know, like, it's okay sometimes to not necessarily be in an honors class, in an AP class. I mean, I didn't feel like I had extra feathers in my cap because I was in them. In my own mind, it was like, you just had to keep doing better and better.
Right.
That's why I did it, not to brag about it. And I look back now and I was like, yes, it was great, but like, it wasn't mandatory. And, you know, I'm trying to teach them, like, sure, aim for it, but don't, it's okay, you know, like, it's okay to do well in what you find out you're going to do well in, because it also kind of spreads you mentally thin when you're going so hard in that way in all those areas. You know what I mean?
I do.
Initially, I went to college for accounting, and my first semester, freshman year, I was put in because you don't pick your
Where did you go to school?
Seton Hall University. You don't pick any of your classes like your first or second semester, right, as a freshman. So because I had said I wanted accounting, you know, when you apply, they put me in, I'll never forget the experience. They put me in I think it was like a grad level course, and it was business law. And here I was, wet behind the ears, like fresh out of high school, just turned 18 because I'm a summer baby, going into this class. It's at 7, 8 o'clock at night with grown adults. Like, even though you're 18, supposedly legal and adult, I do not feel an adult, right? And here they are arguing tooth and nail, all this stuff about law and business. And I just was like, if this is what the college experience is like for accounting classes, I'm not equipped right now. This is not my forte. It just... I don't know if it scared me or I just don't know what it was. And I was like, no. And then I withdrew from that class. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I just said, let's go teaching. And here we are. And then I busted my behind because I was not in the track. To you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm graduating on time. And they had just changed all the rules at that point. They were going for accreditation. So you had to have basically a double major. So I took a full English major, 40-something credits, plus the full credits for education. And I was like, I'm out on time. I'm not. So I did summer courses. I did like 6 or 7 in a semester. I was like, I'm out of here on time. Well, because business law scared me. But in the end, I guess I'm somewhat good at teaching, so it worked out, I think, too, you know? Listen, every day's not a good day. That's not realistic, and that's not the expectation that you're going to come in here uber happy and smiling and ready to do everything that we're going to do. That's not realistic. I don't expect that. However, there's still a baseline of respect that we need to have for each other in this setting. So if you're coming in and you know, and I've said this in my, you know, the opening day talk you have, and I say there, you know, maybe you didn't stay at home the night before, you know, or maybe you were up late, or maybe something went on over the weekend that we would never even know about that happened, because it does. That's okay. I said, and it's okay to not want to tell me that. But I ask that if you're coming in and it's been a rough night or a rough week or a rough weekend, if it's after a long break, you know, pull me to the side at the door and just say, hey, I'm not feeling, you know, I'm just not having a great day. I don't need to go talk to anybody. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. But if you don't, like, just that heads up, because I know as teachers, sometimes it can be seen as disrespect. If a kid comes in and they're just slouched, hood's a little pulled up, maybe head's almost going down, they're not responsive if you're calling on them or you're giving directions or saying to move certain places, they're hesitant. Human nature, we're quick to take it personal, and we're quick to assume it's a disrespect indicator. And sometimes it can be. Sometimes it can, but not always. And I think that's something you learn with experience in this job, that you shouldn't take it necessarily personal, have the conversation, you know, that kind of thing. So I kind of tell my students, and this is for all students, you know, all people, it's hard sometimes to share, and I get that, but I think if you know you're having a rough go of it, try to take those 2 minutes before the bell, whatever, or in the morning, whatever it might be, just have that conversation, because believe it or not, despite our perspective, we all wouldn't be here if we didn't care about kids. And the greatest hurdle for them to understand is that we're not necessarily the enemy, or we're not going to be mad, you know? It's actually a greater show of maturity when you just have that quick conversation. It doesn't have to go deep. It doesn't. You don't need to tell me why. Sometimes I tell them TMI in a joking way, depending on what things, you know, whatever. I joke around with them. Yeah. But, you know, I say, if you want to share, you can. If it's ever about safety and things like that, then I'm going to do my job. But if it's just, maybe it was a rough night, you didn't get to bed, whatever, you're just tired, let me know. Yeah. And then we proceed accordingly.
What would you like your legacy to be?
Part of my personality is I'm a people pleaser. Very sensitive. I'm a people pleaser. I do want everyone to get along, want everyone to be happy. It's always been my nature. And so with that said, I would hope that when people that I've encountered or that I've been friends with, because you have friends through seasons, right, or colleagues you work with through the seasons of your life, that they think of me fondly, whatever it might be. Whether it's my crazy teacher room stories about wild episodes of my life where I reenacted for them every little bit of the details, down to the T, or a time I was there for them, or we worked really well together on some type of project, or, you know, just a ear to lend, or ear to bend, I should say, not lend. That I would love to be known for being a good person, and we're not always 100%, and we have our bad days, and we all can have our moments. But I hope that my greaterness of kindness outweighs those, you know, that type of thing.
And what do you want for your children?
It's a scary time to be a parent, I could say that. I wish that they are strong enough to overcome the pain that comes with life, the hurdles that come with life, and that they have the willpower to circumvent any type of difficulties that could suck them into a path that we don't want anyone to ever really go down, as I think anyone wants for any children that we encounter, be it a child that we teach, a child that we gave life to, you know, whatever it might be, and that they just stay good people, and that they just don't, you know, let life harden them up, and, you know, do good, be good, life's good. You know, that kind of vibe, even though it's not. And it's tough. Life is very tough. They've experienced some of that already. And just that sense of like, you know, it's going to, believe it or not, we hate to be cliche, but you know, what's that quote? The tough times come and go, but tough people last forever, you know, and there's that word tough again, but unfortunately, like, I've not known anything else. So in a sense, you know, I hope that, I mean, they have a different life than I had already, and how they're growing up, but just do the best you can. Don't beat yourself up when you don't. And just always try to do the right thing, even when it's the hard thing to do. Or else you end up on a wayward path. That's what I try to tell them.